Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
Because I think that movie has a lot to say about what it means to be part of religion and have beliefs and try to be a force for good through that kind of thing. I think that really stands out to me.
Our guest today owns and operates the Twitter account Star Wars Centralized. His account has a focus on Star Wars novels, but his observations absolutely covers everything in the franchise. It was his thoughtful, balanced examination of that galaxy far, far away and his keen eye and mad respect for storytelling that got us to drop him a follow. So please join us in giving a warm hello there to Dan. Dan, are you ready to share with the world what Star Wars means to you?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Perfect answer.
Okay, let's start with 5 with the Force. These are 5 questions we ask all our guests, and it kind of gets to a Star Wars baseline. So the first one, very easy. Which Star Wars movie is your go-to favorite?
The Last Jedi, easy answer. It's my go-to movie to put on in the background of when I'm working on anything, because I feel like only that or probably Attack of the Clones are the ones that I can put on with no audio and still get so much of the just beautiful visual storytelling.
Absolutely.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
For this next one, I need a D6. Listen, 5. Okay, so what is your favorite Star Wars alien?
Thespiacian. That's it for me. Oppo Rancisis or Urus Bainar is one of the Bounty Hunters comics. He's what solidified it for me, a Thespiacian bounty hunter. Just think of the huge beard, long hair, snake tail, and then if you've seen the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, Oppo Rancisis has these weird Grinch fingers in it, and it's just delightful.
Is there anything about that alien that really draws you in? Like, what first caught your eye about this alien?
I think it represents to me the kind of mysticism that the Jedi hold, specifically in the original trilogy. Like, I think that is an alien design that George would have thought of for the original trilogy, akin to Yoda, of subverting expectations for what it means to be some ancient lightsaber-wielding wizard warrior. It's not the warrior that Luke would expect. It's not the warrior the audience would expect. He's a weird snake wizard man that sits in a chair and has scraggly fingers.
Question number 3. What is your favorite line to quote?
This one's actually, I say DJ's maybe from The Last Jedi all the time. Like when it's revealed that he's betrayed Finn and Rose on the Supremacy and they're there with the executioners, DJ just does this thing and zooms in on him. Maybe. And I say it with, the thing is it's one word, so I don't even know if it qualifies as a quote, but the way I say it, just I have him in mind. Because Benicio del Toro just like drips with that line. I don't know what it is, maybe, but I just love it.
Capture the essence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, you kind of did it, but are there any Star Wars impressions or impersonations
I don't think so. I've always been told that I do an okay Yoda, but I just...
Well, now you have to show us.
Yeah, it's mostly because whenever I do a Yoda line, my hand automatically goes like this, into 3 fingers. So I go, young Skywalker.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
pretty
all
good.
right. It's all right.
Yeah.
People can either nail Yoda or they're so far outside of the arena of Yoda, it's you're wondering what they're doing. It's like, Yoda,
unrecognizable.
Yeah, what it's around the survivors, a perimeter create. That's the one I go to.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. Because that's the most un-Yoda-like line of them all.
Is.
And it's just
So
wonderful.
true.
What makes you say
funny.
it's the most un-Yoda-like line?
When I say un-Yoda-like line, I mean that genuinely, but I do also think that was George's intention with the line. because the whole, I mean, George very clearly states his thesis on who the Jedi should be in their first appearance in Attack of the Clones, where the Jedi are like, Jedi are not generals, we're not warriors, we're not supposed to be fighting in a war like this. They very clearly established that. Then by the end of the movie, create a perimeter around the I don't know. And there's lots of military jargon that the Jedi are just spewing at the end of the film, and it's very and it goes against what Yoda says in the original trilogy as well. But I don't think that's a case of bad writing. I think that is what the intention was, of showing that, wow, okay, these people that didn't want to get swept up in a war, they got swept up in a war.
Yeah, it was real and honest. And I think also it showed that, well, he realized that their way in that environment and in the way that like the politics and everything were moving forward, like wasn't going to work any longer. They kind of had to like rise to meet their enemy a little bit and kind of also go against things that they believed in.
Yeah, they matched the situation, even if it was not good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot in war.
Now, for the final question, besides the movies, what is your favorite Star Wars content? This could be a TV show, a comic book, a novel, a game, anything.
Well, probably most of my favorite Star Wars stories come from books. I would probably still have to say the comics, because they just hold such a special place in my heart. Yeah, Star Wars comics are just really...
What drew you in originally to the comics, in comic books in general? Was it kind of more the art? Was it the format for the storytelling? Like, I'm always interested what draws folks into comics.
It was just really a lot of the knowing that there was a universe. I always knew there was a universe that lied outside the first and last frame of every film. But it was just the way I first got into Star Wars comics was a good teacher, an English teacher who liked comics, and I would talk to him about Star Wars. It was in the Rise of Skywalker had just come out. It was a pretty weird, like rough time of transition in my life. It wasn't, and so that didn't apply to him recommending it or anything, but it just came at the right time. I was in a little bit of a rough spot, and he recommended that the school library had some Poe Dameron comic trades. So that was the first, because I wore my Last Jedi shirt all the time. And he's just like, I would always talk to him about Star Wars, and he was like, yeah, you should check out these like Poe Dameron comics. They're actually really good. I've read some of them. And then I did. And from then on, it was over the next year, I got super into it. So it was just knowledge that there was stories about characters that I care about outside of the bounds of the films.
Now,
really cool.
Baylor Valance is, I think, primarily a comic book character. And on your Twitter, in your description, you have that you're a huge Baylor Valance fan. I agree. I think he's one of the cooler characters from the original Marvel run. And I was really excited to read his adventures in The Bounty Hunters when that came out. How did you get into Baylor Valance? And am I saying his name right?
Yeah, no, you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
There's actually a big debate in the Valance Nation fandom about the pronunciation of his last name. I used to say Valance, but then a Bounty Hunters comic released where one of the characters makes a joke about his name rhyming with the word balance.
Okay.
So that changed everything. Yeah. But yeah, Valance, I first got into that because all the main exposure that I had to Star Wars comics was canon and the 1977 run. And he appears in those through the Epic collections and stuff like that. But I really got into him just because of how good he's characterized in the Target Vader miniseries.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He's just a really fascinating character because, one, he does have like those deep roots in the history of the Star Wars expanded universe, like the first Star Wars thing outside of the movies, like within the first 10 issues after the adaptation of A New Hope, 1977 Marvel, we get Valance. So he is really, really core to the DNA that was taken just from the first movie. And that has always intrigued me about him and made me appreciate that they brought him back. But it was really the characterization of that he is a character with a very storied past. He's very nuanced. The funniest thing is that he seems like he would not be nuanced at all. He's the robot killing machine guy that is on the flaming covers where he's punching Darth Vader in the face. And it's just like it like exudes like that kind of like masculinity, like fighting, but he's actually incredibly an emotional character too. And I really like that subversion of that trope, that kind of action hero trope where he appears like one, but he's a really emotional guy. that I connect with, and I feel like he's got a lot of loves and cares that are very clearly communicated in his stories, that there are people that he cares about and cries about, and it's really beautiful because I don't know, it just has always spoken to me in a lot of ways.
That's fantastic. That's really great.
What a beautiful answer.
Yeah, right? Let's take a step back. And can you tell me what your first introduction to Star Wars was, and can you walk me through that experience?
Oh yeah, totally. So my relationship with Star Wars has literally always existed. My earliest memory, probably as a human being, is watching the A New Hope VHS with my dad.
Oh, wow.
I think that is probably my earliest memory that I have. But according to my parents, I would just watch until the escape pod crashed on Tatooine, and then get bored or want it rewinded back to the beginning, because I just loved, I was just so entranced by this gold robot and this little blue trash can robot walking down these white hallways, and then things exploding and lasers, and I just loved it. So that sequence always holds a special place in my heart, because that's literally my introduction to Star Wars. That's Star Wars for me.
Yeah, it's truly a first step into a larger world. Like you're joining the droids as they walk you through to this the world of Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's been interesting as I've learned more about movies and storytelling, that something that I've always known has been contextualized in like how beautifully it was done filmmaking wise. Because I was always captivated by it. I didn't need to learn why it's captivating. I always knew that. But now I know that it's captivating, like, for so many reasons. Like, it starts in the middle of a story with intriguing characters. It doesn't feel like you're at the start of a story. And that's why it always captured me, because it's like, oh, I'm just hopping into this story that's already been going for however many years.
Yes. I recognize that Star Wars was around for you since you realized what existence was. What were some of the other ways you interacted with Star Wars as you grew up? Like, did you get into the toys? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a lot of the action figures when I was young. I think I still have it somewhere on my desk. No, I put it somewhere else. My old Conk droid figure. I have the original Conk droid figure that I inherited from my dad, the original one.
The only impression Dave can do.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Okay, I'll do it. This is my favorite one because it's so easy. Gonk.
That was spot on.
Right?
So you had the toys.
Yeah, I had the toys, and I only was able to watch the movies that I had on VHS as a kid, or that I had on DVD, and I had only A New Hope, Empire, and Attack of the Clones. That's it.
Wow.
So I didn't see Return of the Jedi until I was older. I didn't see Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith till I was probably both of those I didn't see till I was in middle school.
Wow.
Oh, wow. So was your first experience of Star Wars in the movie theaters the sequel trilogy?
It was.
Wow, that's really fun. We have 3 generations of Star Wars movie theater kids on this call right now. Because Dave was original, I was prequel.
I was sequels. Yeah, my first experience with The Force Awakens. But between that, so I was really into the Clone Wars while it was airing. So that's also holds a very special place in my heart. The 2003 Clone Wars I love, and the 2008 one I also like a lot. But as it got into 2012, 2013, my interest in Star Wars really faded quite a bit, until only a few short years later it was brought back by that first teaser from The Force Awakens.
How did that first teaser hit you? Like when The Force Awakens, you're either in front of the TV or you're in the movie theater and you hear that music, you see Finn stand up.
Yeah.
What was kind of your reaction?
Well, my earliest memories of Star Wars are all A New Hope. So that desert landscape immediately hit me. I'm like, whoa, this feels Star Wars for a reason that I can't explain. This feels more Star Wars than, I don't know.
It's just in the DNA.
Yeah, it's just in the DNA. Absolutely. And I absolutely felt that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is really, really interesting. And that was all expanded upon by a big thing for me was the 2015 Battlefront.
Yep.
Because it's original trilogy only, which is really interesting. But that really kickstarted my return to Star Wars. Was that the 2015 Battlefront, and leading up to the hype for The Force Awakens was really good.
What was it? So what was it like I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question, because when Dave and I talk about trying to remember our first experience of Star Wars in theaters, we were both pretty young, so it's a little fuzzy. So what was it like going and kind of being among that anticipation and excitement in theaters and having kind of that be your first experience after loving it for so long and only being able to kind of experience it in pieces, it sounds like, as you grew up, and have that as like a core memory that you can like reflect on pretty easily, probably.
Yeah, I have a like a very distinct memory of it because I was in high school, so I definitely remember it more. I had bought a bootleg First Order symbol T-shirt because I saw it in the trailer and wanted a shirt of something that was in the movie to wear to the movie. So I wore that. I wore that on the day. I had a final exam that day. So I wore my First Order shirt to my algebra final exam. And then I got really excited, hung out with my friends. We talked about our theories for the film. I had a few specific friends that I would meet with. We would hang out in this one hallway before school every single day as they would release more trailers and more clips. And we just talk about different theories and how the plot's going to go and stuff like that. And we were actually gaining some ground because we're like, okay, so it's got Finn was a stormtrooper and he's got to rescue Poe. We've seen that clip of him being interrogated by Kylo Ren, so he's got to break him out. We've seen Starkiller Base. Maybe they break him off of Starkiller Base and then they go back down to Jakku and they find Rey. And then it was like, we were just theorizing so much.
Not super far off,
yeah. Yeah, the trailers, we went like frame by frame through the trailers and like tried to make everything make sense with each other. And that was just a really, really good experience. And I ended up seeing all 3 sequel films with the same group of friends.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful.
Which was really wonderful. And that was good because it was all kind of the same little chunk of time. But
that sounds like such a heartwarming sitcom. Like you just described like something I would watch.
The Star Wars Friends sitcom.
Yeah, Star Wars Friends.
Yeah. What a charming. Yeah, what a sweet memory. Yeah.
It was really fun. Yeah, those movies will always hold a special place in my heart for that.
Yeah, I did the same thing. When they came back as the sequels, some friends of mine and I were like, "Oh my god, they're back at theaters!" and we're freaking out. And like, I remember going to like we have a very tiny movie theater in our hometown. It's like a 1-screen theater, and yeah, like waiting there with everybody else in our t-shirts and just so excited to hear the fanfare open the
Now I wanted to talk about the EU a little bit and canon in the canon series. And one of the things is that I really like about your Twitter account is how you cover both Disney canon and expanded universe or Legends series. What is it about the Legends side of the series that really attracts?
I think what really attracts me about a lot of it is that its inspirations and behind the scenes development is sometimes very clear based on the era that it was produced. I think it's incredibly interesting, like what I was talking about with Opor and Sis of what a Jedi would be. When you look at some materials that were released before the prequels and between the originals and them in that 90s kind of bantam era of Star Wars publishing, like there's a Jedi Master named Jedi Master Ikrit. And Jedi Master Ikrit is a little fuzzy bunny who is looks like a pet and he can sit on someone's shoulder, little fuzzy bunny, but he is an ancient Jedi Master that is incredibly powerful and incredibly wise. And there's just a lot of extrapolation from things in the film and concepts in the films that I really, really like. And then you can see that as well in my favorite Star Wars story, the New Jedi Order book series. It is continuing with everything that was built from just the knowledge of the universe that we get from the original trilogy. And then the New Jedi Order starts in 1999 when The Phantom Menace comes out. And it ends in 2003 when Attack of the Clones has released. And it's about Luke having to learn about what it's like to have the Jedi in a war and have to deal with that in a way where the Jedi survive, not where they end like in the prequels. So it's just very interesting to me, the way that it reflects the things that the films and TV shows and anything else is trying to accomplish within the space. But also it's just, the stories are just kind of wacky too. That's also something that I love about them. I love the deep, incredible analysis of the Force that we get where Jason Solo is being tortured and interrogated by this Jedi who has been so disillusioned named Vergir on a Yuuzhan Vong in a Yuuzhan Vong prison. And it's just like incredibly deep, and it's written by Matthew Stover. So it's incredibly poetic and just wonderful in how it explores the depth of decision making and the nuance of the light and the dark based on the decisions of the user. But then you also get Luke Skywalker falling in love with a Jedi who has put her consciousness in a computer and having dreams about kissing her when he's sleeping.
Interesting. It sounds like an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, it honestly is, but it also includes a bunch of Gamorrean guards being brainwashed into thinking they're stormtroopers and trying to fit the armor on their bodies so it's not fitting. So they wear the stormtrooper helmet as hats.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's the variety you get with the expanded universe, though, with Legends, which is why I like it, because there truly is a story for everybody. Which I firmly believe that there is a story for everybody's go-to tone of Star Wars within the universe. You can find it there, but I think the EU is just probably the best representation of that to me.
Yeah. What do you think is your go-to tone for Star Wars story?
I love the deep kind of natural religious type stories that deal with that kind of thing. That's why The Last Jedi stands out to me a lot, because I think that movie has a lot to say about what it means to be part of religion and have beliefs and try to be a force for good through that kind of thing. I think that really stands out to me, just because it's a very important aspect of the mythology that George Lucas creates and has crafted, but also the real world mythology that he comments on and the power of that. So just like myth and religion and ideology and stuff like that is the mystical Star Wars stories.
Yeah.
Well, so the books is a medium and part of the Star Wars story realm that I haven't personally dove into yet, and I'm starting. So I think that the question would be, like, what book or series from Legends would you recommend to somebody who's not ventured into that area yet?
From Legends, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, my go-to question is what's your favorite Star Wars movie? That's what I always base every recommendation on.
Wow.
So, what I say for
I
is
have one
if
for
someone
each trilogy.
yeah, go for it.
Originals A New Hope, sequels The Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, I meant to say prequel. Sequel, gosh, I actually don't know. Let's go with A New Hope. Let's go off of A New Hope. We'll cut out my ums and ums.
No, you're good. For A New Hope, my recommendation is I think a fantastic place to start with Star Wars is just Heir to the Empire, the original start of the Star Wars novels. It's really incredible, and it matches the tone of the original trilogy in a way that I don't know if any other book has. Timothy Zahn writes the original trilogy characters so well, and it has the pace and like mannerisms. And it almost feels, this is the weirdest thing, is that the original Thrawn trilogy feels like it's edited like the Star Wars movies, which is a super weird transmedia assumption to say, but it feels like it's edited like them. Or if you're introduced to the X-Wings at the end of A New Hope, if you're really interested in X-Wings and fighter pilots, check out X-Wing Rogue Squadron. That book is really wonderful. That's the only X-Wing book I've read. I haven't read any of the following ones. I'm still getting to that. But X-Wing Rogue Squadron is really delightful.
Okay. Love it. We love a good recommendation.
And then for Attack of the Clones,
I want to hear this.
I'd probably recommend The Approaching Storm. By Ellen Dean Foster. It's very weird, and it's a weird book, but it is about the building Separatist crisis, and it's got a lot of different Jedi and just prequel era world building stuff. So to me, Attack of the Clones, the thing that stands out most is the like enveloping world. This world just feels gigantic in that film, and I think The Approaching Storm captures that pretty well.
Nice. How about Force Awakens? I think I'm going to settle on that one. I've been thinking about it.
Force Awakens? Okay. So we don't have a Legends one for that because this is after that. But if you want to go for Force Awakens, it's actually probably the young adult novel Before the Awakening. Before the Awakening it's a short story about Rey, Poe, and Finn. There's a short story about each of them. One about Finn's training in the First Order and missions. One about Rey with her flight simulator and learning to fly in atmosphere and dealing with just being a scavenger on Jakku. And then Poe's is about him as a New Republic pilot, first coming into contact with the First Order, bringing it up to the New Republic. They don't care, so he joined the Resistance. It's like all the really, really essential backstory you need to know for these three characters, and it's beautifully written.
Nice. What a fun exercise.
Yes, it's a really cool way of like thinking about the books in relation to the movies and how the books can capture the tone.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we wanted to ask you was if you could bring anything from Legends into canon, current canon, like what would you want to see?
For me, the answer is more of the forgotten things that are a little goofier. I think that if I'm speaking from someone who enjoys Valance, that's an example. Valance started out as a bounty hunter who hates droids, and then he gets shot in the face, and it's revealed, oh, he's half droid. Like that is a goofy, pulpy concept that has been recontextualized into some serious emotional stuff in the new canon. And I think there's a lot of chance for that, specifically with very minor characters from the end of the 1977 Marvel run. I think that's my go-to. Luke Skywalker trains a lot of students that appear in 1 or 2 issues. Maybe there's some that appear a lot more, but just Luke's early students and a lot of things like that from Legends that were not appearing in a lot of stories, maybe one-off students, just Luke's early students. That's probably my answer. You got his weird students that appear in 1 or 2 issues from the 1977 run, but then also some students that appear in later Bantam books.
That'd be fabulous. I'd watch that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I need the Luke's Academy thing in Star Wars. I really need that. That is my favorite story concept in Legends.
Yeah.
Knowing of all the things that are in the realm of the canon series currently, do you think there is room for stories that cover the year or two that Luke in a new Jedi Order? Or
yeah, so we
Jedi
know
Order?
that he starts in canon training Ben Solo when it's in 15 ABY, because that lines up in the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary. That's lines up at the same time that Ben starts training in the Force. Rey is born. So I think that's an interesting little dyad thing right there. But we know that he started his academy officially post Grogu in 15 ABY, and it goes until 28 ABY. So we know there's 13 years of Luke training a school. If you go to Adam Christopher's wonderful Shadow of the Sith, we know that he has lots of students. There are lots of younglings, that there is an older class and there's a younger class. We know Ben Solo is put in charge of training a younger class with saber training in that book. We know that Ben Solo has lots of friends and there are lots of kids at this temple. It looks really big. And I think that is so untapped. But I think it is for a reason. I think they would only want to do that if they can really go all in on it, make sure things are kind of consistent there. But part of me is concerned that they wouldn't do that because we know how it ends. And that's a lot of people's argument. A lot of fans, when I say like my dream Star Wars project is something at Luke's Academy, pre-Force Awakens, post-Return of the Jedi, just that kind of era of the New Republic, fighting minor Force threats, fighting smaller scale dark side users, but also maybe fighting like crime in the New Republic, something like that. But a lot of people are like, we know how it ends, so it doesn't really matter. And to them, I always just go, the Clone Wars. We know about Order 66.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't mean we couldn't get these incredible stories in there. So in a long roundabout way, yes, I think that is maybe the biggest era of potential that we have in modern Star Wars for future storytelling.
I'd agree with that, because I think there's also criticism around how abrupt it feels when Luke does fear the energy that he's sensing from Ben Solo, and that kind of ultimate betrayal that leads to so much more destruction. And I think there is a place for that story to not only be built out in the way that you're talking about, which is, like we would love to see this kind of academy come to fruition and these stories of these young Jedi Robin Hoods, essentially. But also that kind of that undercurrent of when Ben starts training and then could build the case for why that fear was so immense for him. Because it's missing. And I think I agree with that criticism.
Yeah, we've gotten just little tidbits of that in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic series, where we just see a little bit of Ben going on a mission with Luke when he's a kid, or just little things like that. Little Ben's hesitance with his other students during his training. You see the darkness running just a little bit. But I think it's just I can see it in the future. Exactly what you were saying, Dave, about Anakin's turn felt really botched or felt really sudden in Revenge of the Sith. And then I watched the Clone Wars and I really saw the nuance and progression of it. I can see someone in the future being like, yeah, Luke's decision in The Last Jedi flashback seemed really sudden. But then I watched the Jedi Academy series and I saw the nuances. So I think they have a chance to do that. But also, a lot of people were definitely not me. I love Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. I hold that very near and dear to my heart. But a lot of people were hurt by the fact that he made those tough, dramatic decisions. And I completely respect that. That person doesn't misunderstand the character because it is a very sad thing that happened. And it's just very sad for the characters. And some people just really don't like that. But I think there is a chance with that kind of series to rationalize with those people and show them that, like, yeah, this is sad. It is out of character because he's making a sad choice, but there is reason for him to act out of character, and that's why it's narratively significant. And I just think there's so much depth of character to explore Luke Skywalker, and the weight of rebuilding and the weight of carrying on a legacy is just so prominent there.
It's also so human.
Oh, so human, yeah.
That's so human. I think a lot of that criticism comes from people forgetting that, yeah, he's Luke Skywalker, the Master Jedi, but he's just human too.
Yeah, and that's The Last Jedi comments on that too. That the same way that people see him as the hero, the galaxy sees him as that hero, which is more than human when he is, in reality, he is just human like the rest of us. In fact, as the insert character, as the everyman in the first movie, he is all of us. And that's why it's so sad. We would be so disappointed and so upset if any of us made that decision ourselves. But sometimes we make bad decisions, and that's why it stands out. And I think there's just a lot of chance to explore that.
Absolutely. What are the top 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
I think this is a hard one for me. Probably feeling like it's part of a larger story, even if it is a good, solid story. Like an example of that is Andor. It feels like it's part of a larger story and part of a larger world while also being an incredible self-contained story. I can say that about a lot of books as well. So feeling like it's part of this universe, and that's core to Star Wars from the first scene. I would say some sort of fantastical technology. That's my second one. It's more surface level, but it just defines the universe. If there's no fantastical technology, it's really not Star Wars. Even if it's an incredibly rural situation and it's a farm, you will see a grizzled old robot tending to the farm, something like that. Technology like that is pretty core to it. And then to me, the third one is probably that it comments on the changes that we go through in life in some way. Either it's about being a teenager leaving home for the first time, like A New Hope, or if it's about the changes in government that lead to authoritarianism. Like those are all changes in life. Star Wars is about change always. Every single Star Wars story you can say is about the change between two things. And I think that's what I like about it.
That's great. That's a really great answer.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. You talk so much about, like, it's so evident how much you've invested in the story and how much you care about really good story structure and good storytelling. So I think I'm curious, like, what's your creative medium? Do you write? And how has produce your own films or anything like that? And how does Star Wars influence your creativity?
Yeah, so I'm a video editor, so I love to edit things, edit projects, edit stuff like that. And that's why the structure of storytelling is so important to me, because I deeply care about how a story is told. I think a story is told, or a visual, like TV film story is told 3 times. It's told when it's written, it's told completely anew when it's shot, and it's told completely anew once more when it's edited. And I firmly hold to that. And I just think that the order of telling stories is really fascinating to me. And that's why I care about that so much. So that's my main creative medium, just video. But I also write quite a bit. I love to write as well. So
listening to you talk about all the novels, I'm not surprised that you like to write, because you have a very strong grasp of storytelling. What is your favorite Star Wars? My
favorite Star Wars memory. I can go to all of my sequel and the 2 spin-offs, the 5 early era Disney films. I can go to those for my just best Star Wars memories. But I think the one that would have to be for me is on my birthday in 2021. my dad and I watched the last 4 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett together, just all in one sitting. And that was like such an incredible moment for me because he introduced me to Star Wars. He got me the toys. I remember it's like bringing tears to my eyes talking about this because it's like so tied into my childhood. But like I remember when he gave me the toy Rancor for the first time, and then seeing that together with him on screen. And it was his first time. I had already seen it. It was his first time seeing it. The Rancor appearing and in the finale of the Book of Boba Fett. That was, he was like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. You had that. I remember when I got you that. And I was like, Dad, I remember that too. I love that. And it was just, the Book of Boba Fett is schlocky and goofy, but I love that in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I love it. And it's Star Wars made for Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
I have such a positive memory of watching that with my dad and just having such a wonderful time. And it's like, just felt like I had come a little bit like kind of full circle of him showing me A New Hope on VHS and giving me those toys when I was a kid. Now all grown up watching that again with him, and like we're still together and we're still the same people. We both changed and Star Wars has changed and everything is just so good.
That's so lovely. Well, because Star Wars is also, you said it's about change at its core, but it's also about family too. And I think that's something we hear. Yeah, I think something we hear a lot in the interviews that we've been doing is, I think it's a really common story that like we were introduced by parents that loved Star Wars, and then being able to kind of like share that back and forth as time kind of goes on. And now you're introducing him to stuff. It's a really beautiful common thread in the stories and in the trilogies, but also like in real life for those of us who enjoy the story.
Absolutely. Yeah. A big aspect of that in the Book of Boba Fett is that Grogu was returned to the Mandalorian in that series. That's a controversial thing that happened. A lot of people don't like it. But in reality, to me, I'm just going to talk about that a little bit because to me, the Book of Boba Fett starts with a child, Boba Fett, who was brought into this life of being a warrior. And that's where he was supposed to be. That's where he was. He's a clone of his father. He is his father. He has that family legacy of being a killer. But then he's given this second chance to change and have a family approach to it and have an approach of compassion and respect as opposed to being a bounty hunter. And he changes that. Book of Boba Fett is about Boba Fett changing, but that's also reflected in Grogu's choice because Grogu is supposed to be a Jedi. He is a baby Yoda. Yoda is a Jedi. That's his thing. But Luke lets Grogu choose family over this who you're supposed to be. And that's what Boba does too. And that's really beautiful to me that the series is about that returning to family or going to chosen family over who you're supposed to be and who people are telling you who you're supposed to be. But people give a lot of flack to the fact that Grogu was returned to the Mandalorian in that series. But watching that on that day with my dad, he was like, oh my gosh, yes, they're back together. Like, yes, he's back with his son. And it's just like, it was just, I'll never dislike that because it's just, I think it's done really well and it parallels Boba's story with Jango as well.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, that's such an astute observation, and I kind of kick myself for missing it, that it is a reflection of the themes of Boba, that mirroring each other within those two stories. Because I always felt like, they're doing a Boba Fett story, and all of a sudden the Mandalorian shows up and they do a Mandalorian for 2 episodes. But those thematics do carry over, and that gives it a little more of a reason to be there, quite frankly.
I still think it's a weird choice, and maybe the branding or marketing was what was off. And it's like the Boba Fett show, when in reality, it's a show about fathers and sons and destinies and family.
Yeah. Okay, so our last question is this. We've talked about your journey with Star Wars, how you appreciate the mysticism and the force for good, kind of that book ending of being introduced by your dad and then getting to introduce something to him through Boba Fett. In all of that, through everything we've talked about, in your opinion, what does Star Wars mean to you?
To me, Star Wars is, from its origin, as stated by George Lucas, it is a representation of the universal monomyth that permeates all of human storytelling. That is a huge answer, but it means a lot more personally then that huge answer lets on. Because when you think about the origin of myth and story and fiction as a concept in human history, they exist to communicate things about us in succinct ways that we can't explain succinctly. They exist to represent the changes we go through in life and the things that we feel and the trials that we face in a way that isn't explaining those things literally. When you think of ancient myths, it expresses the confusion that they had about nature, about science, about the world in a way that was easier to understand. Meanwhile, for example, the prequel trilogy expresses George Lucas's concerns about the path of government and the path of humanity and our desires and our duties, but expressed in a way that isn't literally explaining those. That's what I think Star Wars is to me. It is a way of explaining things that happen in this world in a way that is not actually doing so.
Beautiful, Anne. You're really thoughtful. Right? I mean, I know that sounds patronizing or stupid, but you're incredibly...
He's a storyteller.
You're a storyteller. Exactly.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
And as the highest compliment, yes.
Yeah. I really appreciated, first of all, thank you for coming on.
Of course, honored.
I do love your Twitter account. Can you tell everyone where to find you?
Yeah, so I'm just on Twitter at @scentralized, and I just tweet about whatever I'm thinking about Star Wars.
And which is a lot, and which is all, if you thought this interview was in depth, his tweets are in depth, and there will be a link to your Twitter in the show notes. So if you want to connect through there to Dan, I highly suggest it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for starting your week with us.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. I'm so glad to have been on and talk about Star Wars. I could do this all day.
Perfect.
Right? It is. It's so much fun to talk about. And may the Force be with you.
Sorry, there's another thing going by in the background.
Yeah.
We'll say may the Force be with you, and you can cut that in, edit out this whole loud siren medley.
I argue we keep it.
Yeah, and may the Force be with you as well.
So that's what Star Wars means to Dan from Star Wars Centralized. But let us know what it means to you. What's the craziest Star Wars story you've ever read? As a kid, did you watch Star Wars nonstop? I did.
Yes.
As an adult, do you still watch Star Wars nonstop?
Also, yes.
Yeah, it's just, sometimes I feel, I'm like, what should I watch? Maybe Empire Strikes Back.
I wonder, are we into Star Wars, like, a little bit? Like, at all? Yeah.
And what is your favorite Star Wars memory? I thought Dan's memory, talking about his dad, was just really beautiful.
That was really cute.
Get in on the conversation on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's at Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. Okay, so for next week, Dan was the third person who recommended Revenge of the Sith.
This is true.
Adam Christopher, the author of Shadow of the Sith, and Mike Chin, author of Brotherhood, both recommended the book as well. So what I'm thinking, let's read Revenge of the Sith for next time.
I am down. Let's do it.
So our episode between episodes will be Revenge of the Sith, kind of, I hate the word deep dive.
Yeah, I don't
mind dive.
Something else. I have been saying that a lot on this pod too. Every time I hear myself say it on the recordings that get posted, I'm like, oh God, come up with more vocabulary, Elora.
I do it too. I've been doing it a lot. I even wrote down. So maybe next week we dive into the novelization of Star Wars. So we're going to do a snorkeling. We're going to do a snorkeling of Revenge of the Sith. The novelization from Matthew Stover.
I'm looking forward to it.
So until then, may the Force be with you.
And with you.
Hi, this is Dave. And before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.